My name's Dr. Michael Corral. I'm the Assistant Dean of Engineering and Applied Science here at UCCS. I'll start off today with some overview of the College of Engineering and Applied Science and then pass it off to Dr. Peter Gorder, who is the Department Chair for Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, and he'll go into more particulars about the program there. And then we'll finish up with some questions as Eddie just said. First of all, the College of Engineering and Applied Science here at UCCS consists of three departments: computer science, electrical and computer engineering, as well as mechanical and aerospace engineering, which you'll be hearing about tonight. Basically, the facilities here on campus, we have the Osborne Center, which mainly holds the mechanical engineering, and then we have the engineering building, which houses the other two departments. Just to give you a sense of the size of UCCS College of Engineering and Applied Science, about 1,700 students, 1,400 of which are undergrad. And here you can see the breakdown by major or by department for those students. So 700 computer science, 560 mechanical and aerospace engineering, which is about 33% of our makeup, and then the 320 electrical and computer engineering. With that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Peter Gorder, who will get into more specifics about mechanical and aerospace engineering.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I am the chair of the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department. A little bit about myself before we get going into the degree. I came from the Department of Mechanical and Nuclear Engineering department at Kansas State, where I was a faculty member before coming here, and have had the unique opportunity to be here from the beginning. The mechanical engineering program is one of the youngest programs on campus. We're not that young anymore, 20 years now, but still that's very young for an engineering degree program. And you've seen on the couple slides ago where Mike showed the distribution of students within the college. We have grown into one of the larger entities in the college, which has been a fun thing to be a part of. We offer for incoming undergrads, the 3 degrees that would be of interest to you are the Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. That's the main degree. That is the bachelor's degree that all of our graduates finish with. We also have a minor in aerospace engineering. That is a designation over and above your major. There are lots of different minors. We'll talk about that as we go a little further in here. But essentially what that is an opportunity to take some specialized courses in addition to your core courses for mechanical engineering. And in fact, if your major is mechanical engineering, you can finish your minor in aerospace engineering without any additional coursework. Just by selecting appropriate technical electives, you can earn and have awarded on your transcript a minor in aerospace engineering. And then for those who are contemplating right from the outset pursuing an advanced degree, and I don't mean you have to make this decision before you even show up, but we do have an accelerated master's degree program. And so what'll happen is students relatively early sophomore, typically early junior year of their undergraduate degree decide, I think I'd like to continue on and get my master's degree. And so they can apply right then to get switched into our accelerated master's degree program. And the advantage of that is that some of the courses that you count for your undergraduate degree also count for your master's degree. So it ends up being a shorter time to completion for that degree option. So mechanical engineering is really the study of anything that, well, it's the catch-all for engineering. There are lots of specialties that have spun out of it, but really anything that is designed and built and analyzed, and that can even include virtual things, but most of our things that we deal with are physical things, but in all manner of domains. Engineering in general is the solving of problems, and we solve problems by designing solutions. So you hear all the time about design being integral to engineering and engineering being fundamentally a design process, and that's really the truth. So what we do in an undergraduate degree program, whether it's here or anywhere else, is that we try to establish a good foundation of the math and science that undergirds all of the different physical phenomena that we are trying to impact with our designs, so that we are designing something in a strategic and intelligent way instead of going into the garage and tinkering and coming up with something that works. And that's the difference between engineering and, just sort of workshop design. So it does take a heck of a lot of focus on that underlying math and science to be able to understand those phenomena that we're going to try to influence with our design. And those are from structural, physical, non-moving things to thermodynamics, which is heat interactions with things, robotics, controls, fluid mechanics, which includes air, water, oil, anything, all of those are fluids. And mechanical engineering touches all of them. Go ahead, Mike. Thank you. There are the minors that are offered within the college. I mentioned that there are many minors offered all over campus, and a student at UCCS can pursue any minor that they want. The minors are all defined as self-contained things, and so if you complete all of the requirements of the minor, you earn the minor. The thing to look out for is the overlap. So you can see we offer a mechanical engineering minor. To my knowledge, no student has ever actually pursued that. It's an awful lot of extra coursework over whatever else they're doing. The aerospace minor, again, for mechanical engineering majors, there's a lot of overlap. So there's really nothing extra that you have to take. Another minor that a lot of our mechanical engineering students pursue is a math minor. That's not on this list. It's offered by the math department, and so not in our college. But the way that they have the math minor structured, and because of all the math that's required in the degree, it ends up being, I think, one extra class if you want to add a math minor to your degree. So that's just something to think about and contemplate as you're going, and look at the requirements of the minors if one of those interests you. Lots of different ways for undergraduates to engage outside of the classroom here at UCCS. We have a bunch of professional clubs. Some of them are listed. So ASME is the American Society of Mechanical Engineering. SAE is the Society of Automotive Engineering. AIAA is the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. NSBE is the National Society of Black Engineers. SWE is the Society of Women Engineers. SHPE is the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And all of those have professional chapters that our student chapters interact with, which means that you get to make connections to people in industry that are working in some field or are part of a demographic that is related to those different groups. And so it's a great networking opportunity. And it's also a great way to have a good networking within your student body also. You meet students that you wouldn't necessarily bump into in class. And a lot of friendships are born out of that too. We have a great internship and career office in the college. Opportunities for internships start as early as after freshman year. More typically it's later, but there are some that want to get their hooks into students very early. And internships are a fantastic way of getting introduced to what it's like in the profession, and to make connections that can ultimately lead to full-time employment. So we really strongly encourage them, and they're not required, but we do strongly encourage them. In our department, we have a very active research faculty, and every single one of them is eager to include undergraduate students in their research activities. And so that varies in what that looks like and when a student is ready to be a contributor in those different research labs. But that's a great way to sort of get your feet wet and think about, is higher education, is research something that interests me? And it's hard to know what that's like without actually getting in there. We have a lot of opportunity for our undergraduate students to get their feet wet in that and to contribute. We routinely will have undergraduate students authoring papers at national conferences. So it's a big thing. And I talked about the internships. We don't require it, as I say. We do offer credit for up to 3 credit hours of technical elective credit under controlled circumstances. We have an opportunity for students to get 3 credit hours for doing an internship. So that's a way of incentivizing it. We have some controls on that, and we work with the companies on what that internship is going to look like and how that is going to satisfy a technical elective. But it's a great way to really sort of put an extra carrot out there and get students thinking about doing an internship. Talked about the undergraduate research opportunities already with our research faculty. We do have competitive clubs. One of the most active competitive clubs we have as part of the Society of Automotive Engineers. We have a group of students who design and build and will hopefully compete. We're in the early stages, and these tend to be multi-year efforts. An electric Formula race car. And so they are designing everything from scratch. So we have a vehicle. There's a lot of work left to do, but they're still on track and hopeful to be actually at the competition next summer. They were actually hoping to be at the competition this past summer, but it got canceled because of COVID. And I think I've talked about the research opportunities already, so let's go on to the next slide. So there's nothing really that is a substitute for hands-on learning. We all learn differently, but we all benefit from having some kinesthetic part of our educational process. And so we have a whole bunch of instructional labs that every single undergraduate student rotates through at various points of their curriculum. And again, we also have a whole bunch of research labs that a bunch of undergraduate students have an opportunity to avail themselves of and work in and learn from. And Mike, I think this is maybe back to you for talking about the why us.
Sure. As a father of a daughter who's in college, I can tell you there's certain things that each of you should be looking for when you start looking at colleges and where you want to go to school. And here's some things that might help with your decision as far as what UCCS Engineering and Applied Science bring to the table. For starters, unlike the big research institutions, there's a strong undergraduate focus here at UCCS. The students are really the focus. Excel centers, which are essentially tutoring centers, are there to help with student success and help you be successful in your classrooms. Our programs are all accredited, which will help you as you move forward with your career, whether you go into the workforce or you go to graduate school. Our program, as you saw earlier with the numbers, about 1,700 students. So we're not too small, we're not too big, or I'd like to say we're just right. This area, Colorado Springs, has a high workforce demand for our graduates. We're able to put a lot of our graduates straight into the workforce every year without too much trouble. We have an internship and career opportunities office, which has great ties with the local community. So people who want internships generally can get internships by working through that office. As I mentioned, the high workforce demand, mechanical engineering is certainly a high demand career field here in Colorado Springs, as well as up towards Denver and so on. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities here in the engineering and applied science, which you can take advantage of, and I'm sure your parents would greatly appreciate if you did. And lastly, I'll say the students, faculty, and staff are all here to help you be successful. They're all doing everything they can, whether it's during these unusual times during the pandemic or during normal operations. They're here for you, and I can't underscore that enough here. So these are some of the advantages UCCS brings to the table, certainly within engineering and applied science, but things that you should look for as you look at other schools and more closely at UCCS. I'd highly encourage you to look at these things and figure out what the best fit is for you as an individual.
And Mike, before you switch on to the next one, I want to piggyback off a couple of different things that you said. For one thing, accreditation, I'm not sure how understood the whole process of ABET accreditation is for students contemplating going into college. I know I had no idea what the heck ABET was or what even accreditation of programs was. ABET is the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, and that is the group that looks at an engineering degree program anywhere in the country, and actually now they have expanded outside of the borders of the country, to say that any student who gets a degree from that degree program is essentially certified that they received an appropriate education in that engineering discipline. So it is the leveler of all engineering degree programs. It's what the outcomes and the objectives of the degree program here are the same as at Boulder, or the same as at CSU, or the same as at Notre Dame, or the same as everywhere. We all are working to the same accreditation standards. There are obviously differences in programs, and so that's part of what Dr. Corll was referring to of finding the place that fits you. You don't have to worry about whether the degree will have value. It does. It has value. It's stamped by this national accreditation body as being of value. So find a place that works well for you. And then the other thing to be conscious of as you're looking around, and I'm not going to disparage any faculty at any university, but when in the big research institutions, the reality is that the emphasis on the faculty, there's only so many hours in a day, and the emphasis on the faculty is focused almost exclusively on the research endeavor, which doesn't mean that they don't care about the education of their students. It really doesn't. It just means that the capacity to engage with undergraduates is significantly hampered by that demand on the research thing. We certainly have an emphasis on research as well. And research is an important part of the learning that goes on at the university. But we're not so overly focused on it that it detracts from the attention that we are able to give to our undergraduate students. And so the faculty that we're able to attract are the ones for whom that's important. They want to have the freedom to be able to pour into the education of their students, in addition to pursuing the research endeavor. So that really is another strong point. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Dr. Corll.
All right, thank you very much. So at this point, we'll go ahead and take some questions. I saw that there were some in there, and Eddie, I'll ask if you want to read those to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with the first one, which I think is important, are there any popular internships that you could speak to that mechanical engineering students undertake while they're attending UCCS? Are there any particular ones?
Hard for me to narrow it down to a particular one. We have students spread out in all kinds of companies. There's a great company that is a manufacturer, one of the world's leading manufacturers of 5-axis CNC machines, super large 5-axis CNC machines. It's just up Garden of the Gods. You wouldn't even know it was there if you didn't look at it. But they have been recruiting and have had a number of our students go through as internships. Collins Aerospace, that used to be United Technologies Aerospace, that used to be Goodrich Aerospace. They keep getting purchased, but from the very beginning of the degree program, they have been tightly connected to our department, hiring a whole bunch of interns and ultimately employing a whole bunch of our graduates as well. Philips is a medical device company. They have been a regular hire of our students as interns and then ultimately as graduates. So in the manufacturing realm, in the aerospace realm, in the medical device realm, even in the electronics realm, a lot of the electronics companies, well, they all hire mechanical engineers too, and they are also regular employers of our students as interns and as graduates. Pretty much pick an engineering domain field, and we've had students, there are companies around Colorado Springs doing that, and we've had students in there as interns.
Thank you for that answer. Another question we have is, for a student interested in robotics or mechatronics and or 3D design, are there any projects that students can undertake or maybe particular coursework that they can get engaged with at UCCS for robotics, 3D design?
So those are sort of different things. The design of products certainly fits in the mechanical engineering realm, and 3D design tends to, I'm assuming that the student is referring to the solid modeling that goes into producing the design of the device. We have lots of projects associated with that. The robotics, we have technical electives. Robotics sort of straddles the fence between mechanical and electrical engineering. Mechanicals are involved in more of the robotics. Really, we cover everything down to the programming. And we do have courses in our curriculum, a technical elective course in particular that gets students good experience figuring out how to design and run a robot, design a code that will allow that robotic arm to do what you want it to do, that kind of thing.
Excellent, thank you. And then I've got one more here. How many hours would you say is the average workload? And I'm assuming this student is talking not just about credit hours, but maybe in a week, what does it look like for a student in terms of workload?
So that's a tricky one to address because it really varies, but it is not a light workload. We ask the students to expect to spend 2 hours outside of class for every hour that they're in. And to get through a degree program in 8 semesters, a student would have to average more than 17 credit hours per semester. So you can figure that 17 credit hours is essentially going to be 17 hours each week plus 2 more for each one of those hours outside of that. So 3 times that each week in order to get done. Now, but again, that there's a couple of things that play into mitigating that a bit. One is that a number of our students, quite a few, will take an extra semester. So that reduces the courses per semester load. We also offer quite a few courses during the summer that some students will take advantage of to try to make progress without having as many hours during the week. And that 2 hours for every 1 hour in is really just, the idea is that it's more of an average. Some students will not need that much time. Some students will need more than that. So it's really hard to make any kind of a blanket statement about it, but if the question is this a rigorous, difficult degree? The answer is yes. And you should go into it with your eyes wide open that it's going to be a lot of work, but there's a tremendous upside on the back end. So that's what we hold out there, and that students understand that it's worth it to get through that, to be able to do what they want to do.
Thank you. Great response there. Then one more question. Are summer courses offered specifically for mechanical engineering, and do they affect calendar year courses?
Well, as I just said, we do offer quite a few of our courses in the summer. There are lots of courses all over campus that are offered during the summer, but we offer specific mechanical engineering courses so that students can make progress along their degree path. One of the things, if you've looked at a degree plan for a mechanical engineering degree here or anywhere else, one of the things that you will have noticed is that there's not a lot of wiggle room. So much of our curriculum is strictly defined. There's just not a lot of room for electives. We have electives outside of the engineering course in order to meet the general education requirements of the campus, which we call the Compass curriculum here at UCCS, but every school has it. And there are 3 technical electives. But if you look at other kinds of majors around the university, you might discover that there are opportunities for free electives. No such thing in engineering. We have way too much to cover in the amount of time. We're already more than the university minimum graduation requirement of 120 credit hours. We already exceed that. So we try to keep it as tight as we can. So those courses that we offer during the summer allow students to continue to make progress on that degree path.
Excellent, thank you. That looks to be all of the questions that we've had submitted by students. And now one that personally I would ask you all that I'm interested in for the sake of the students is, are there any skill sets that students develop their freshman year or that they develop afterwards that makes them really good students and then later engineers? Like, is there something that students can really focus on building and spending their time and investing in themselves? Okay,
so that question took a turn as it was partway through. I was interpreting it a little bit differently, and so Eddie, if you'll allow me, I'm going to first address it the way that I was hearing it when you first started asking the question. So as opposed to skills that they need to learn to succeed, one of the things that is going to be true of any engineering discipline degree is that you will necessarily be developing skills that are going to benefit you throughout your life, not just throughout your degree program. Because what we focus on and the whole field of engineering is breaking down a problem to understand the fundamental cause of the problem, all of the different influences of any solution to that problem, and then strategically building a solution to that problem. And so that extends way beyond just solving engineering problems. That is a great skill set for life. And in fact, if you look at in a lot of industries, upper management oftentimes are populated with people with engineering backgrounds. They're not doing engineering anymore, but they're using that structured problem solving approach that they learned as an engineer to solve the problems that they face in that role. The other question, as the question continued on, Eddie, I understood it to mean skills that will help them succeed in the degree program. And really, early on, we try to focus on building sort of a mindset about how to approach the work that you are being asked to do in engineering. It really does take a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of time management. It takes a lot of resilience because you're going to face big bumps. And so we really try to sort of, at the early part of the program, we know that these things are coming. And so we try to help the students build those traits and skills early on to help them more with the harder coursework at the end of the degree.
Thanks for playing a little bit of yes and with me there with that question. I think that hit it right on the head. And then one last question that I have for you, Dr. Gorder, is it common for students to pursue a mechanical engineering degree and also participate in sports?
So it is absolutely, we have lots of our student athletes in our degree program. I don't know, I would imagine that the student athlete population is higher in other disciplines, but there's nothing about being in our degree program that would make that undoable. And as a matter of fact, to be completely blunt, our student athletes tend to do really well because the students already have to manage their practice schedules and the other commitments of their athletic life. And so the whole idea of structured time management is a natural for them already. And so you've heard the expression that the busiest people get the most done. They seem to manage that better than some of our other non-athlete students.
Excellent. Looks like we have one last question coming in here. This is the last one we'll have time for today. Is there room to fail a course and still be able to graduate on time? And then as a follow-up to that one, are there any scholarships that high school seniors should look and apply for?
Okay, so I will defer the scholarship question. I think there are probably others better suited to answer that. So if the question is, can you trip in taking a class and fail a class and still get done in time? You can. I would suggest, though, that that might not be the best objective. If there's a struggle, the best course of action may be to recognize that on time isn't the goal and finishing well is. So again, if you do the math, if you're taking 17 credit hours per semester for 8 semesters to finish, and you have to retake one of those, well, then you've just added 3, 4, 5 credit hours to a later semester. Is it impossible? No. And with summer and other opportunities, it's still very possible. But I think that a student going in should have the mindset of wanting to do really well, not just get through, because that's really what's going to be looked at when you're done and you're looking for your next step. So it could be, I don't want to discourage anybody from not continuing if they fail a class. On the contrary, we've had plenty of students who have failed classes and then gone on and successfully completed their degrees. But I never really advise them to try to go fast to get that done, because there's something that prevented them from doing well in that class, and maybe not having enough time was a big one.
So with respect to the scholarship question, my advice, again, I have a daughter in college. I would advise all of you to apply to as many scholarships as you can, because every dollar is going to help. I would start with your high school guidance counselors and talk to them about different scholarships that they may know of. I would say, after, once you're accepted into school, I know UCCS has a scholarship software or program, so to speak. It's called BAM, that you can fill in information and it'll tell you which scholarships most fit who you are, because different scholarships have different criteria and are aimed towards different folks. And I would go through those programs and make sure you fill them out. I wouldn't hesitate to fill them out very thoroughly and make sure that you're doing that. I couldn't sit here and say, oh, you want to apply for the Dr. Peter Gorder Scholarship or anything like that, because its criteria might be different. It might be only for people from Kansas. Okay, so you have to look at the different, that software. The nice thing about it is it really helps you weave through the bulk of the scholarships to find the ones that are most appropriate for you as an individual. There are plenty of scholarships out there. I know, doing a quick search on the web, you can probably find a handful, depending on what, I know for me, I'm in the military, so my daughter looked at a lot of scholarships aimed towards military dependents. I know they have scholarships for people who are dependent or sons and daughters of healthcare workers, first responders, things like that. So there's a lot of scholarships out there, and I would say that it's definitely worth taking the time to do the web search and filling out the information to make sure you're taking full advantage of what's available to you. No doubt college is expensive, and every little bit you can get to help you with those costs is certainly going to be well worth the time. And I don't know if Eddie or Jacqueline have anything to add on scholarships as far as the process goes during admissions.
Sure, I could add a little bit there on the side of admissions, kind of on the front end. So one of the big things for students to keep in mind when it comes time to apply for scholarships is that for UCCS in particular, you'll apply for many of the scholarships that you will be eligible for through the UCCS portal. So really step number one to applying to scholarships is being admitted to UCCS. So you'll be able to use that portal to apply. Second thing is, while we're waiting for scholarship season to approach, our financial aid website actually has a link to our scholarship search tool. You can start browsing through some of the criteria of scholarships that past UCCS students have received and start planning out what that looks like. Start seeing, hey, this one requires an essay, or maybe that one doesn't, or how reliant is this one on a high school GPA? So those are important things to factor in. The other one, especially for students graduating this academic year applying for scholarships, is that maybe some of you haven't taken test scores yet for SAT or ACT. So some of that criteria is still being decided upon for many scholarships out in the community, even ones that aren't listed on our particular scholarship website. So keep in mind, if you can take one of those tests, absolutely do it. Those will always be helpful to finding you and kind of drawing you away from the pack. If you're sitting with a lot of students at the same GPA, and maybe it's excellent, maybe it's a 3.7, 3.8, that test score helps differentiate you from them and helps demonstrate other avenues in which you're being successful. So if you can take those, certainly do. But really step number one for the scholarship application process, specific to UCCS, is try and get admitted early on so that you have access to the portal and you can start the application process when those open up. So definitely early is better for scholarships too. So, but thank you, Dr. Kroll, for touching on that too, because your advice is well warranted as well. I think those are all the questions that we have on the presentation. So if you guys have any closing thoughts, you can take it away.
So I'll go ahead and start since we're all staring at each other. I would say, you're at the start of a pretty exciting time as you start looking at schools. I think you're going to learn a lot about what's important to you and what type of school you're looking for. I certainly encourage you to look at a bunch of different schools and weigh what is best. And the most important thing is what is the best fit for you when you look at schools. UCCS, as I went through earlier, has a lot to offer each of you. And I think you should take note of that and utilize that as you move forward and make your decision. I certainly wish you all the best of luck. As I said, it's a pretty exciting time for both you and your parents. I think you need to keep talking, keep asking questions, and try to learn as much as you can so that when you make your decision, it's as informed as possible.
And hard for me to figure out what I would add on top of that, Mike. So thank you for that. But yeah, I just want to share my excitement for you as well. This really is an exciting time in your life. It's the first step into adulthood, and it's a big transition time. And so, live in it, relish it, enjoy it.
Thank you both for those thoughts. I can't think of a better way to end or a better note to end on than that. So thank you, folks, parents, students, for joining us today for this Major Monday. Like I said, we'll have more coming in the future, so 2 more this month. Please feel free to tune in with us there. But for the rest of the night, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your night, enjoy your week, and we will talk to you all hopefully next Major Monday. Take care, folks.
See ya.